When we talk about the massive artificial intelligence boom, the conversation almost always starts and stops with the companies making the flashiest, most powerful chips or, the most advanced chatbots. But if you look past the headlines, there is actually an invisible architect underlying the entire industry. So today, we're going to look at Broadcom, a company that has quietly positioned itself as the unavoidable structural winner of the AI infrastructure race.
Consider this insight drawn directly from the sources. Broadcom is the only company that collects a toll regardless of which AI chip architecture wins. It is the Switzerland of the AI infrastructure arms race. I mean, this perfectly frames what makes Broadcom so incredibly fascinating. They don't actually need to pick a winning horse in the AI race because they own the racetrack itself. Their unique position of absolute neutrality basically guarantees revenue no matter who comes out on top.
6 layers of advantage, building the ultimate structural moat. Let's break these down one by one.
Layer 1 is all about design lock-in. When Broadcom partners with a hyperscaler, think Google, Meta, ByteDance, to create custom silicon, it's not just a quick off-the-shelf transaction. These custom XPU design cycles span 3 to 5 years. Broadcom engineers become literally embedded inside the hyperscaler teams. They practically move in with them. And once an architecture is designed on Broadcom's platform, switching mid-cycle is simply not an option. Case in point, their co-development of Google's TPU is now locked in through 2031.
And this brilliantly illustrates Layer 2, their networking monopoly. Broadcom built the Tomahawk 6, which is the world's first 102.4 terabits per second switching silicon, designed specifically for million-node AI clusters. Right now, there is no viable competitor, period. So the crucial takeaway here is that every single AI cluster, even the ones running entirely on NVIDIA GPUs, must route their traffic through Broadcom switches. It effectively functions as a tax on the entire AI infrastructure build-out.
Layer 3 brings us back to that dual-engine model we talked about earlier. Specifically, this massive 77% number. That is the operating margin of their VMware private cloud software. These enterprise contracts are absolutely mission-critical. If a company decides they want to churn and leave VMware, it means they literally have to rebuild their entire private cloud stack from scratch. It's the ultimate sticky revenue.
Let's look at Layer 4, which is photonics leadership. Broadcom's co-packaged optics platform known as Davison integrates optical engines directly onto the chip package. Now, why does that matter to us? Well, it cuts power consumption by 3.5 times compared to older technologies. In an industry where physical power grids are literally maxing out and preventing new data center builds, a 3.5x reduction in power consumption isn't just a nice little upgrade. It sets the absolute standard for 2027 AI cluster architecture. Layer 5 is unmatched alignment at the executive level. CEO Hock Tan's personal compensation is tied directly to hitting cumulative AI revenue milestones. $60 billion, then $105 billion, and ultimately $120 billion. If he misses those targets, he forfeits the award entirely. No way around it. There is literally no CEO in the semiconductor space more financially aligned with hitting specific, massive growth numbers. Talk about a high-stakes performance review, right?
Finally, Layer 6 is the Department of Defense tailwind. A recently awarded $970 million contract completely opens up the market for sovereign AI. You see, governments building highly classified AI clusters simply cannot use chips designed in foreign nations. Because Broadcom's custom XPU platform is US designed, they are uniquely positioned to completely dominate this new, highly lucrative sector.
Section 3, the shift to custom silicon, and why inference is the second structural wave.
We are currently living through a massive computing shift. By 2027, inference workloads, which means the actual day-to-day running of AI models for users rather than the initial training of them, are projected to account for up to 70% of all AI compute. Let's contrast how these two workloads are handled. For training massive AI models, companies rely heavily on standard, off-the-shelf GPU clusters. They're incredibly powerful, but they are massively power-hungry. But for inference, actually putting those models into production for millions of users, hyperscalers need extreme efficiency, and that's exactly where Broadcom's custom-tuned XPUs step in. And the result of that custom tuning is absolutely staggering. Custom XPUs, optimized for specific model architectures, deliver up to 40% total cost of ownership, or TCO, savings. As AI moves heavily from training over to production deployment in the next few years, the sheer demand for these efficiency gains expands Broadcom's total addressable market dramatically. Perhaps the most seismic industry signal of this shift is OpenAI. OpenAI is famously NVIDIA's largest customer for GPUs. Yet, the decision by OpenAI to commission a custom Broadcom XPU, known as Titan 1, proves that even the most GPU-dependent AI companies are hedging toward custom silicon to capture those cost and efficiency savings. Current estimates suggest this Titan 1 chip alone could add over $10 billion in revenue for Broadcom by just the first half of 2027. Section 4, a $73 billion backlog, eliminating investment risk.
Just let this number sink in for a second. $73 billion. This is Broadcom's 18-month AI backlog. And to be clear, this is not a soft pipeline or some hopeful projections. These are locked, committed orders from the world's largest tech companies. Operating with multi-year locked contracts of this sheer magnitude fundamentally changes and drastically de-risks the financial profile of the entire company.
And here's the crazy part. Despite shifting more heavily into creating custom XPUs, which generally carry slightly lower gross margins than their legacy networking products, Broadcom maintains an extraordinary 68% blended EBITDA margin. That is best in class across all of semiconductors. How? Well, it happens precisely because of that dual-engine model. The massive cash flow from the VMware software business acts as this giant buffer against any hardware margin pressures.
As CEO Hock Tan points out, hyperscalers are racing toward clusters of 1 million XPUs by the end of 2027. That's multiples larger than anything deployed today. And at 1 million nodes, the nervous system connecting every accelerator becomes the single most critical component. Right now, Broadcom's Tomahawk 6 is the only switch capable of handling that immense data throughput. Million-node scaling isn't a luxury anymore. It's non-negotiable for next-gen AI, and Broadcom holds the keys.
Section 5. Key risks to monitor. First, customer concentration. If a major client like Google decides to take XPU design entirely in-house, then Broadcom's custom silicon Thesis is materially impaired. Second, TSMC dependency. If geopolitical constraints restrict TSMC wafer allocation, then Broadcom's manufacturing capability gets bottlenecked. Third, margin compression. If XPU volumes disappoint while margins compress, then financial estimates could miss. And finally, VMware pushback. If customers reject the repriced enterprise licenses and migrate to alternatives, then that software annuity engine could stall out.
The risks are real, for sure, but the structural advantages here are unprecedented. So I'll leave you with this question to ponder based on our explainer today. As these massive AI clusters scale to 1 million nodes and beyond, who holds the ultimate power in the market? Is it the company making the individual chips, or is it the invisible architect collecting a toll to connect them all?